Aroma Thyme Bistro presents Wine Thyme Live, hosted by the Hudson Valley's premier green certified entrepreneurs, Marcus and Jamie Guiliano. So grab a glass of your favorite vino, sit back, relax, and travel with them, sharing their passion discovering unique vineyards, outstanding wines, delicious food, and great adventure.
Hello, everybody. Marcus and Jamie here. Welcome to Wine Thyme Live, episode number 11.
Wow, 11.
11, a Hudson Valley gem.
Awesome.
Hudson Valley has some great wines. More and more coming up. Start opening the wine.
Yeah.
Start opening.
Sorry, I was waiting for you to talk more.
I'm
I'm going to open the wine.
I'm excited about this wine. So
We haven't tasted this wine.
we tasted at the vineyard, I thought.
This is an... Oh, maybe we did.
We did taste it at the
Yeah,
vineyard.
we did. Sorry.
Yep. So
I thought it was the aged one.
they're all aged.
No, yeah, I thought he gave us one to taste, but I could be wrong, yeah.
So the wine that we're tasting today can only be purchased at the vineyard. You cannot get it in restaurants. They do not wholesale to restaurants. They do not sell to stores. It's only available at the vineyard. The vineyard that we're talking about is Stoutridge. Stoutridge is a vineyard in Marlborough. The new owners have been there 15 years? About 15 years, yeah, about 15 years. If you're watching us, as opposed to listening to us, Jamie is holding up the label right now. Some different kinds of labels for some different kinds of wine. What I want to say about different wine is they're really involved in the natural wine movement, like really, really involved in the natural wine movement.
What does it mean to be in the natural wine movement?
Let's talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Talk about how we got introduced to them.
I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think how we were introduced. So during, I guess a couple months ago, COVID. Beginning of COVID, I got an email from the owner, the wife, and it was, we all have some slower times, do you have some time to come check out our winery? And I said, I never responded, actually. I thought it was just a generic message going out, and I never really responded. And so a couple months later, I believe, one of our sales reps came in with some of Stoutridge's, what were they? Cordials, spirits,
vodkas, gins.
And I was like, oh my gosh, Stoutridge, they sent us a message. And I said, did you send the message or did Stoutridge send the message? And I kept saying, boy, we should really go check them out. I bet it's cool.
And the sales rep, Don, was like, yes.
Yes, you need to go check it out. So I emailed them back and I said I would love to set up a time for us to come visit. And they were closed one day, and I think they're closed during the week, a couple of days.
I think so.
So they said, come on by, and we got to taste wine with them, and we got a great tour. The winemaker is super educational. Like, he will educate you on anything. He is a chemist, right?
That was the first thing they said. We walked in, he goes, my wife and I are chemists. We understand how things work. We understand how yeast works. We understand on the molecular level how wine ages, how yeast works, how sulfites,
how things
everything
mix together
works.
to make cordials, stuff like that. So pretty incredible. So they also explained how they run this pretty much by themselves. Through COVID, they pretty much, I don't know if they laid off or they just never really had.
They didn't have much staff to begin with, but during COVID, they work the tasting room with one other part-time employee, and they have a full-time employee that helps in the fields and with everything else that's going on in the operation. He sort of helps out the one full-time employee. They did cut back a little bit for COVID, and like all of us cut back a little bit for COVID. We're not open as many days as we used to be. Right. We're not open as many shifts. Means we don't do brunch anymore. We don't open for lunch on the weekends anymore. So we cut back, and we cut some employees back because we had to figure out how to operate at a very profitable level, and they figured that out.
They figured it out as well. So all of their wine, you can only purchase their wine at the winery. They have vines too, right? Mm-hmm. Do they grow a lot of grapes? I can't remember.
They grow some grapes.
Okay.
They said they're actually getting out of that, and as they grow more and more, they're sourcing more and more grapes from trusted partners, trusted vineyards. But they do have vines back there. So they're in Marlboro. Stoutridge is in Marlboro. As soon as we walked in, we're like, this place is pretty cool. This is a big place. Now with the tour of the winery.
No, what you said, it's a big place. It was actually quite a surprise that they don't distribute and you can only buy their wines there. And it is a really big place.
They make less than 10,000 bottles a year,
which
is small.
Which is very small.
Very small. Yeah. And it's only done by him and his wife with one full-time employee. So
like when you walk in, there's tons of, how many?
They make 45 different spirits. Now, so they start out as a winery. And then just as of 4 or 5 years ago, they started distilling. And they have all these really cool stills. One of their stills is fired from radiant heat underneath. In the old days, you'd fire a still with wood. And that would, the firing from wood underneath would create these hot spots in your distilling process that would create some good flavors, some caramelization, some good flavors. That the more distilling got efficient, they would wrap these distills with a steam jacket to control the temperature throughout and not get hot spots. So the art was lost with the hot spots. So they have a custom still, one of, I think only like a handful in America, where it's radiant fired heat underneath and it gets those hot spots and they can get different flavor extracts from what they're distilling. Really, really cool. They also have this little pot still that sits over in what looks like a sink in the corner of a bathroom. It looks like it's sitting there, and they can make one case of spirits at a time.
Right.
So he's like, if you want us to make something custom for you, that's super easy. If you want us to add more cardamom, add vanilla, whatever to our coffee liqueur, whatever, we can make one batch. You have to buy the whole case, but we can make one batch for you at a time. And then the other stills they had, they're the column stills, very, very cool. And then they have this lab. They brought us into their lab.
Oh yeah, the lab was really cool.
He goes, Marcus, we're one of 2 or 3 distillers in the country with this sophisticated of a lab. And again, they're chemists. This is what they do. For them, this is okay. This is what they need to do to be able to pull off an operation like this. And they go, this is one of like 3 in the country, maybe 2 in the country, of distillers that have a lab that is this sophisticated. And they had buckets of everything, crafts of things.
It was
and
cool.
you could
Everything
see
was labeled.
Everything was labeled.
They mixed things. It was really cool. And then they have a basement. They have a cellar. They had, remember the big room with all of the cellar wines, right?
Right. So let's start with the top of the property.
Let me tell you, everybody, if you have a chance to go visit Stoutridge in Marlboro, you should definitely take the opportunity. Plan a day, go sit there, go talk to them, go learn about what they're doing, because it's really awesome.
Beautiful backyard, a beautiful yard in general. You can, when it was
Walk around the
warmer,
property.
you could just take a picnic there, take food. They don't do food service, so you have
can bring your own food.
You have to bring your own food if you want to eat there. So when you get into this property, there's only 3 people that are full-time working there. They have no forklifts. Everything is gravity fed. So
are you starting from the top?
the top.
Okay.
So the way grains and things get delivered, they get to the top of the building on the side of the mountain, side of the hill. And as things come
They go into the, right.
as things come in, they get put on winches and then slid and then get down to the next level. So every time like they'll press grapes, they press it, it goes to the next level. It goes down, 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 down. And that's built on a tier system on the side of the mountain, which is super, super cool.
Very cool.
Because they don't need forklifts running around. They do all this without any forklifts on top of it. And the whole system is so intricate how everything works. They have their own kiln, which means they sprout or germinate or malt their own barley with this custom wood-fired furnace in underneath it, which is really amazing.
And it was a custom built.
Custom built. It's on one of their bottles of spirits. Again, they make 45 spirits. Those are for sale in stores and restaurants. The wines are not. And we're drinking the Cabernet Franc, by the way.
Yeah.
Is what we're drinking.
This is a 2008.
Current release, by the way.
2008.
Current release of this. I'm going to talk more about the very uniqueness of what they do with their wines. So they do their own malting, which means sprouting and germinating the grains, the barley specifically. But he explained to us that what most distilleries do is not what he does. He keeps them at a certain temperature for a longer amount of time, develops different flavors in them. And he goes, most places just kill the process of the sprouting right away. He goes, it's a long drawn out process for us. And because that, we have to put it in these special baskets. And he was going on and on. It was like, whoa, this is really cool stuff. Like
they're monitoring the temperature of the grain and the floor.
And the floor.
The floor is radiant heat.
Yep, the floor is radiant heat, yeah.
Really cool.
So it brings it up to a certain level, so it germinates, and then they sweep it into the kiln, and then it starts drying. And so we've been to a lot of distilleries, we've visited a lot of places, and we learned so much that day.
We did.
Because, again, everything goes back down to this exact science and the chemistry of what they're doing. So now, because they're in tune with how things work, how things are supposed to work, they make all their wines in a very, very natural way, extremely natural way. This wine right here is a 2008 Cabernet Franc. This is their current release. This is $25 in their wine shop. For a 2008 is their current release to sit on it for that long and age it, that is a bargain. That is a real bargain.
Yeah.
Most of their wines were in the $20 price range. The first wine we tasted from them, he pours us a white wine, a little cloudy, and it was Niagara. The grape was Niagara. Niagara makes a sweet white wine. So
typically, it's
a
sweet white wine.
And he goes, no, Marcus, because our wines are older and fermented longer and aged longer and all that, he goes, we ferment it bone dry. It is fermented bone dry. I'm like, okay, I've never really had a Niagara even in a nice wine glass before, because that's not what Niagara is. And I smelled it, Niagara, tasted it, and I was like, this is something I've never experienced before. And so all their yeast is natural. It's natural wild yeast fermented. Everything is in contact in here. He says this wine will go another 50 years.
What does that mean, it's in contact?
So we have another vineyard that we use out of Slovenia called Movia. And Ales is on the same tune with this stuff. Ales makes wines that has to stand up because everything, all the sediment has to go to the bottom of the bottle. He makes this quote-unquote champagne that has to be disgorged table side when you do it, because everything's left in contact. They leave all the leaves, they leave the yeast, everything's in contact in the bottle still, which makes the wine more durable. So he's not adding sulfites. He's not buying commercial yeast, and he's letting this out 12 years old. And he says, well, it's going another 40, 50 years. He's like, this wine is a baby still.
Yeah.
And when you think of 200 years ago with all the classic French Bordeaux's and the Italian Amarones that were made over 100 years ago, they didn't have these types of chemicals.
The means of using this kinds of stuff.
So
they didn't have them, right?
They had to rely upon a much more natural approach to making wine. So this wine is a very, very dry Cabernet Franc. And so don't expect that. Cabernet Franc, to begin with, in New York State grows very, very, very well. It's a cold weather grape. You cannot compare it to the Cabernet Francs of the Loire Valley. You cannot compare it to the Cabernet Francs coming out of Bordeaux or any other regions. This is less, I want to say, fruit forward than a typical New York Cabernet Franc, because again, they're fermenting out a lot of the sugar to get all their wines really bone dry.
So you were talking about the malting room. So we were starting at the top, so we kind of got a little distracted. So talk about what the next level down is. So the next level is the distilling part, and then even the next level down, there's a room that has the barrels in it.
The barrels in the basement.
No, remember the room right off there? Yeah.
So in the main tasting room, they have these beautiful oval wine barrels, which everything is piped in. The wine is piped in, right? Because it's gravity fed and piped in. And from there, when the wines are aged for so long in the barrels, then the wines are then gravity fed down to the next level where the bottling room is. So literally everything starts at the top that comes into the distillery, into the winery. Everything comes from the top floor and then works its way down based upon the process that it's going through. And then everything's, if it's big things that have to be like big pallets or something, they literally get put on a winch and slid over and drop down to the next level. So that was like one of the, I've never been in a winery that has actually gone that far. They were using for a long time barrels from Hudson, the only cooperage at the time. I think it still is only cooperage out of High Falls. They were using exclusively all of the local oak barrels from this cooperage out of High Falls, which is an amazing place in High Falls. He doesn't make many barrels a year, but Stoutridge was buying exclusively at one point every barrel he was making basically when he first started out. So you could see the difference. Now Stoutridge uses other barrels. They use French barrels. They use other barrels, but you could see walking through the cellar room, to the aging room, the barrel room, the difference in the difference in the barrels. You could totally pick out what a local oak barrel was. That was so easy to pick out. You're like, okay, that's local. They were just a different type of knottiness, a different type of appeal to it. We're talking about the local barrels. And again, he uses lots of barrels now from all over, but at one point he was using really only local.
I love the old style barrels that he was, the big ones. What are those called? The barriques? Is that what they're called?
The small ones are barriques.
Oh,
You're talking about the oval.
The oval ones.
The oval ones are Slovenian. Those are wine barrels. So
wine barrels, yes.
in the wine world, if you're traveling to Spain or Italy, a lot of the wineries will use big barrels. So when you see these
Slovenian, right?
the Slovenian oak, which are these massive barrels, these are the barrels that you have to have somebody go into every couple of years.
What is that called? What are those people called?
Oh, my
they
gosh.
have to be so little. They have to fit through a hole about this big. What is it, like 2 by 2? It feels like 4
These
by
people
4.
go into these barrels,
to
and
clean
scrape them and clean them.
Yeah.
And talk about being claustrophobic.
Ooh, you cannot be claustrophobic.
Or very drunk from all the fumes of the wine in there.
They can't spend a lot of time in there. They have to be very quick.
Yep.
So it's something they learn how to do quickly, right? Because the fumes.
Time is of essence.
Yes.
You don't stay in one of those barrels all day and clean a barrel and just, you're in and out of there. It's pretty crazy. So the bigger barrels are the Slovenian oak in wineries, which
Barolo,
the small ones they call barriques. Okay. And when you go to visit Barolo, you go to visit Brunello's, these producers, Chianti, all throughout Tuscany, all throughout the wine world, a lot of them use these large barrels. So the small wine barrels are not really as common as people really think they are.
Are those more for aging long term, the barriques, or
barriques are shorter term, more contact, different style, different oak. In fact, today I was going to say I posted something different today on our VIP winery page on Facebook. I was talking about the rosés, about how the French like onion peel color rosés as opposed to those bright rosés.
Right.
I had a video that I was going to post today talking about the characteristics of French oak.
That's a good one.
American oak.
Yeah, that's
good. Our wine guide Javi in Spain and Rioja was going through and talking about that. I'll post that video very soon. It's a short 30-second video. If you're not following us, definitely follow us on VIP Winery Vacations on Instagram, which is where we're going on Instagram right now. We have a Facebook fan page. We also have a website, VIPWineryVacations.com. We love to go to Europe. We love to go to Italy. We do Spain. Unfortunately, with COVID happening, our trips have gotten pushed off now. We've not officially announced our next push-off trip, but I'm assuming our April trip is probably going to get pushed off to November, just seeing the way the travel is going and the current COVID cases and things like that. We still have another conversation, and we still have until beginning of this January 1st to really make a decision.
Yeah, so we have another month or so. We're in beginning of December right now, 2020. So
we're in kind of a limbo right now with that, but we are doing trips to
the Finger Lakes. So if you want to travel with Marcus and I, we are doing Finger Lake trips. And our next one, our first one, we go to the Finger Lakes all the time, which we absolutely love. Obviously, we love wine, we love to travel, and we want you to travel with us. So we will be going to the Finger Lakes in January 2021. I think it's the 22nd through the 24th with a snow date of the following weekend, which I don't remember the dates. But if you are interested in that, you can contact us, and we'll get you all the information. We're staying at awesome hotel. We're staying in an awesome hotel, and we have really awesome wineries lined up for you to go with us to. I think people have that bug in them, and they just want to travel. Hopefully we'll get back on track here soon, 2021, hopefully towards the middle to end of the year back into our European travel. But for the time being, we're going to stick with what we can. We'd also love to do some trips in the Hudson Valley, maybe just a day trip here and there,
Right.
Where you meet us at the winery, we introduce you to the winemakers, you get to taste wine with us. Hopefully,
And Stoutridge would be a great, great place because
that
they have
would
room.
also-
They have a private room, I
Yeah,
think,
he
right?
said we can get the private room upstairs, which seats a certain number. I don't remember what he said.
So if it's
but-
our group, which is that's a great benefit about traveling with us, is we can pull strings like that, and they're happy to accommodate our group, our smaller groups in these private rooms. And the Finger Lakes are doing the same exact things. They're not putting us in a tasting room with everybody else. We are going into the barrel rooms, we're going to other private rooms, and we're doing that ourselves in there. So, and of course, this show is never really about the flavor of the wine. It's about the experience of the winery and traveling there. And that's
Any winery.
Anyone.
Any travel. I know for us, we're dying to get out there and travel, and we love to travel. So, join us. We'd love to have you join us.
right.
So, I think that's it.
Excellent.
For today.
So Stoutridge Winery, they're located in Marlborough, New York. They are pioneering the natural wine movement here in New York, in the Hudson Valley especially. They're pioneering it. 2008 Cabernet Franc, naturally made, an all-natural wine style, wild yeast, everything, really good. Everything's intact in here. Really awesome stuff. Their spirits, they make 45 spirits currently. They just launched a
curacao, a blue curacao.
blue curacao.
And it's not blue, but it's natural.
It's natural colorings.
It's natural.
It's all
Oh,
made
it is blue. It is
it's
blue.
made from vegetable.
That's right. It is blue. That was what it was.
Right,
It
there's
is
no-
blue.
there's no
but
food
they said no, absolutely not. So that's kind of cool.
Yep, that is cool. They pastis. They made a pastis and an absinthe.
Yeah, it's cool.
just
stuff.
launched an absinthe.
They have some cool things there.
Yep.
Check them out.
Their absinthe is an absinthe liqueur. There's
So it's a little sweeter,
There's no
right?
need to add the sugar. All you have to do as a consumer is add a little bit of ice water until it luges, and you're good to go.
Or ice.
Ice water,
Ice
ice
water
water or
or
ice.
ice, yeah.
Typically, you want to add a 3-to-1 ratio of water to absinthe. It is 120 proof. It's very, very strong stuff. It is legal in the U.S. as of 2009. They changed the law, so the absinthe does not have an origin that it comes from. It can be made anywhere in the world as long as they follow the basic guidelines of what absinthe is. It's basically fortified brandy. Brandy, I'm not even sure if it's considered brandy, but it's a fortified spirit with lots and lots of different herbs. And when you do the luge effect, you're pulling out the essential oils of the herbs that are locked into the spirit, and the ice water brings that out and it luges. And you typically add sugar. You don't burn. It's not typical to burn it. That's something that's done but not recommended. But absinthe makers don't like you to do that. Consumers think it's cool to burn it to sugar and throw it in there. Do not burn. Ice water, 3-to-1 ratio of water to absinthe. That's how it works.
Awesome.
All right.
Cheers.
Follow us on VIP Winery Vacations on
Instagram.
on Instagram
And Facebook.
and Facebook, and go to our website, sign up for our email list, and hear more stories like this. All right, thanks for everybody
Thanks,
for tuning
everybody.
in.
Have a great night.